Let's dive into one of history's biggest plot twists. We're talking about how a bunch of colonists, who honestly saw themselves as loyal British subjects, decided to throw it all away and start a revolution. It's a fascinating story.
And that's the big mystery, right? In 1774, independence wasn't really the goal for most people. Not at all. They wanted to reconcile, to patch things up with Great Britain. So what on earth happened in just 2 short years to change absolutely everything?
You know what, you can totally see this let's make a deal mindset playing out. I mean, go back to 1765, to the Stamp Act Congress. The official documents called them loyal subjects. Fast forward almost a decade to 1774, and even the Continental Congress is still trying to protect their rights as British citizens. But then comes 1775, and King George III and Parliament just refused to even talk. They completely shut it down. And that right there was the moment the door to a peaceful solution was slammed shut.
Okay, so reconciliation is off the table. The colonists need a new playbook, a totally new way of thinking about their place in the world. And that brings us to our first huge clue, a set of radical new ideas coming out of Europe from a period we call the Enlightenment. This gave them a whole new language to explain what they were feeling.
A huge piece of this puzzle is a guy named John Locke. His ideas were, and I'm not exaggerating, a bombshell. He basically said that a king's power doesn't come from God. Forget the divine right of kings. Nope. He argued it comes from the people, the consent of the governed. And here's the kicker. We're all born with certain rights, life, liberty, property, that no government has the authority to take away. I mean, that idea was a total game changer. It flipped the whole script on who's really in charge.
Then, building right on top of that, you get Jean-Jacques Rousseau and this concept of the social contract. Think of it like a deal, right? We the people agree to let a government have power, but there's a huge if attached. We only agree if that government does its job and protects our rights. If they break that deal, by doing things like taxing us without our consent, then the contract is broken. The government is no longer legit. You can just imagine the colonists hearing this and thinking, yes, that's exactly what's happening to us.
So you put these thinkers together, and it's like a recipe for a revolution. John Locke gives you the core idea. You have rights that can't be taken away. Jean-Jacques Rousseau gives you the justification. If they violate those rights, the deal's off. And then Baron de Montesquieu comes along and gives you the how-to guide for what comes next, a government with separated powers, an executive, legislative, and judicial branch, all designed to keep any one part from becoming too powerful. It was the whole intellectual shebang.
But here's the thing. Big, fancy, philosophical ideas are great, but they were mostly being discussed by the well-read, educated elite. For this to become a real movement, something that everyone from a Boston merchant to a Virginia farmer could get behind, it needed to be more than just logical. It had to hit him in the gut. It needed a soul.
And that's where you see these two incredible forces coming together. On one side, you've got that philosophical reason, the smart, logical arguments for why self-governance makes sense. That appealed to the leaders, the thinkers. But on the other side, you had this powerful spiritual conviction that liberty wasn't just a good idea, it was a God-given right, and that resonated with almost everyone.
A lot of this energy came from something called the Great Awakening, this massive religious revival that just swept through the colonies. Suddenly, fighting for liberty wasn't just a political act, it felt like a sacred duty. You can read it in the diaries of everyday people like Sarah Osborne, who genuinely believed God had a plan for America. And you can feel the power of it in the words of Phyllis Wheatley, an enslaved poet who made this incredible case that liberty, both of the soul and of the body, was a divine right for every single person. This turned a political debate into a holy cause.
So we've got the brains, the philosophy, and we've got the heart, the spiritual fire. But how do you connect the two? How do you take these big ideas and get them into the hands of every single person in every town and tavern? How do you turn a conversation into an absolute wildfire?
Well, you get a guy like Thomas Paine. Just listen to that quote. "Monarchy is the most barefaced falsity ever imposed on mankind." Wow. That is not subtle, it's not academic, it's a punch to the face. He wasn't just questioning the king's policies, he was calling the entire system of monarchy a giant lie.
Paine was a genius communicator, a real disruptor. He took all those complex ideas from Locke and Rousseau and boiled them down into simple, powerful language that anyone could get. He'd even use Bible verses that people heard in church every Sunday to argue that breaking away from England wasn't just a good idea, it was a moral imperative.
And the effect was just explosive. Common Sense went viral, 18th century style. It was an instant bestseller. Why? Because it took all these complicated feelings and frustrations that so many colonists had and put them into words. It made independence feel not just like some crazy idea, but like the only logical, righteous path forward. It made it feel, well, like common sense. So let's pull all these threads together now. Let's see how this incredible mix of brilliant ideas, deep faith, and one absolutely killer pamphlet lit the fuse that led to the creation of a new nation.
So you see how it all stacks up? First, you get the logical framework from the Enlightenment thinkers. Then you add the moral and spiritual fire from the Great Awakening, which gives the cause its soul. Then Thomas Paine comes in with the spark, the amplifier that takes these ideas to the masses. And the final step, the Declaration of Independence, which takes all that public energy and makes it official.
And that's exactly how it went down. With the public now fired up and demanding action, thanks in large part to Paine, the Second Continental Congress knew they had to act. They gave the job to Thomas Jefferson, who then drafted the document that put all this new thinking and all this passion down on paper for the world to see. So, in the end, it wasn't just one thing. It was this incredible combination of head and heart, of powerful logic and deep spiritual belief, all amplified by a brilliant communicator that turned loyal subjects into rebels. It really makes you think, doesn't it? If the foundation of American liberty was built on this blend of reason and faith, what does that tell us about the way we talk about our big issues today?